Everyone, I'm back with today's episode of Singapore taxes, so individual taxes. Yep. So the other day I mentioned that I will speak more about the reliefs and what is taxable, what is not, or individual tax. So here goes. Okay, so let's start with what is taxable and what is not. Okay, so obviously employment income is taxable, but not all kinds of employment income is taxable. So you need to go in. Technically you don't need to know anything because your employer is supposed to report all those that they pay to you inside your IRA, so this part can be skipped if you are not interested to know. Okay, then self-employed, obviously it is taxable because it's a type of income, so any type of income is taxable. Okay, but whereas if it's like capital gains, it's not taxable. Okay, next we move on to income received from overseas. So generally, income received in Singapore is not taxable and don't need to be declared. This includes overseas income paid into a Singapore bank account. However, it is taxable in Singapore if it is received through a partnership in Singapore. So if you have a partnership and then it's not relating to your partnership kind of income, right? And don't receive it in a partnership account. Okay, receive it personally, so it will not be taxable. And if your overseas employment is incidental to your Singapore employment, right, means you have an employment. This one your employer should know, like they should have already reported it. So your overseas employment is actually incidental to your Singapore employment, then this overseas income will be taxable. Okay. Next, we move on to income received in the form of government grants. So, we'll basically present you with this scheme that the government came up with. Okay, so it's not a scheme, I mean like a list of all the kind of payouts. Okay, so for self-employed income relief scheme that they help to eligible self-employed people to tide over this period of economic uncertainty is not taxable. So all these are not taxable. I just go through this. So COVID-19 support grant for those who lost their jobs. Okay, workfare special payment. Okay, that one is not taxable as well. Temporary relief fund, not taxable, to help those who require immediate help to cope with basic living expenses. So it's really for those like poor people. Okay, NTUC Care Fund is a one-off financial assistance to NTUC union members who are in financial difficulty or retrenched due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, and then there's a wage support for tourist guides. Okay, so all this not taxable. Payout to Singaporean seafarers, not taxable because they are unable to secure shipboard employment. COVID-19 recovery grant to help to provide temporary financial support to workers in lower to middle income households. Okay, so all this is not taxable. Then another one is the COVID-19 recovery grant. So it's to provide temporary financial support. Okay. Yep. Market and hawker center relief fund. So there is a one-off cash assistance to support hawkers and market stallholders that was affected during the phase P2HA. Yeah, the other schemes are related to like employers or like businesses that is not very relevant to individuals, so I will not be covering those. Okay, so we go back to this portion. So next we move on to whether digital currencies are taxable. Did I click on the wrong? Yeah, so tax treatment of digital tokens. Okay, so people or businesses, individuals who choose to accept digital tokens such as bitcoins for remuneration or revenue, you are also taxable in this, depending whether you treat it as an income or it is a capital gain. So you can see so you choose to accept this is subject to normal income tax rules. Then whereas if you are in the trade of you going every day go and trade bitcoin, all this, right, by right is taxable. Yeah, because it means you have profit derived from trading in digital tokens. Okay, next we move on to this income from property rental. So everyone know like property is actually taxable. property rental income is actually taxable. Okay, so rental income, full rental, but then you get to minus off your expenses lah. Yeah, so what is the definition of rental income? You can read it here. And then yeah, you can read more info here because I believe not many people have property income. Okay, then dividends. Dividends generally not taxable, is paid out by a Singapore company. However, it excludes cooperatives or foreign source dividends, okay, or REITs dividends. Okay, so dividend are treated as income once they are declared payable. So not if you haven't received the dividends but they declare it as payable, is already taxable. Okay, interest generally not taxable, okay, if it's approved banks. So what is a taxable interest if it's non-approved banks? Finance company not licensed, pawn shops, loans to companies, and yeah, so for interest income received by companies, right, is taxable lah. But interest income received by individuals is not taxable. Okay, interest from refund of excess CPF contributions, debt, security bonds, trading business. Okay, then next we look at gains. So gains are generally not taxable. When will it be taxable? It will be taxable if you are having a profit-seeking motive and deemed to be trading. Okay, so what deems you to be trading? Frequency of transactions. So those people who buy and sell stocks or crypto, right, every day, right, frequency of transaction is there. If there is evidence trail to show that you are trading in it, by right it's supposed to be taxable and you're supposed to report it. So if you don't report it, and one day you get fined out, you get a hefty fine or you go to jail. Okay, reasons for buying and selling property. Financial means to hold the property for a long term. So this is talking about property lah. Not even talking about stocks and shares, but it's the same theory. Okay, how long is the holding period? So if obviously if you buy and sell during the day, the holding period is low, right? I mean it's short, so yeah. Next, annuities. So annuities are generally not taxable, like CPF Life is a form of annuity, so that's not taxable. SRS is actually taxable depending, so it will be 100% taxable or 50% taxable depending on when you withdraw it. Okay, this one I've talked extensively on when it will be taxable and when it's not, so you can go and watch my other video. Okay, so if an annuity is provided by your company, then by your employer, is actually taxable. Okay, so you must declare under other income. Next, we move on to alimony and maintenance payments. Okay, so these are not taxable. And next, estate or trust income. So estate and trust income are taxable. So if you ever set up a trust, it's actually the income derived from the trust is actually taxable. Next, so NS, housing, medical, education award, all these awards are not taxable. Royalties. So royalties are taxable if earned in Singapore. So there are some that will qualify for tax concession. So you can go and read it yourself what qualifies for tax concession. Basically, it's encouraging artistic things in Singapore. Like you won't be qualifying for tax concession. So tax concession doesn't mean that you don't pay tax. It's just a lower tax rate. Okay. Now we come to everyone's favorite, Toto 4D, the Toto 10 million. Is it taxable? Nope. The winnings received are not taxable. Okay, considered windfalls, not considered as income. Okay, so as you know, Singapore tax is only taxable on income. They don't tax on capital gains. So this is windfall is considered like capital gains, I guess, in that sense. Yeah. So withdraw from SRS scheme. Okay, this one I think I talked about it for quite a few times, but I will just repeat briefly about what it's about. So after 62, if you actually withdraw from your SRS over this 10-year period, so 62 you withdraw all the way to 72, right? And you withdraw say maybe 100k per year. So if you withdraw 100k per year, 50k will be taxable, and then 50k will be added to your other accessible income to be subjected to tax. So you need to also weigh your current tax rate and your future tax rate, whether it's worth it to contribute to SRS. Okay. So when will it be 50% taxable? If it's after 62 you withdraw, or if you actually pass away, then it's actually 400k will not be taxable. Based on medical grounds, also 400k will not be taxable. Yep, and bankruptcy also 400k will not be taxable. Okay. Next, we move on to everyone's favorite, tax reliefs, rebates, and deductions. Okay, so just now whatever I saying about income is taxable, that's only one leg of the income tax for individuals. So one is your income, next is the deductions and relief. So this one is the plus, and this is helping you to minus the income lah. Okay. So the difference between tax reliefs and rebates. Okay, tax reliefs is on the assessable income. So what do you mean by accessible income? Means like you earn $10,000, that's your accessible income. Whereas rebate is on the amount of tax. So you earn 10,000, imagine you're taxed at 17% without any tax reliefs, right? Taxed at 17% means you need to pay, we should start with 100k lah. So 100k you still pay 70k tax. Okay. Then this 17k is the amount of tax you will pay, but with some personal tax rebate. So imagine you got $5,000 personal tax rebate, then your tax amount is only $12,000. Okay, that's the difference between relief and rebate. So relief, right? Imagine if you earn the 100k, right? Then they give you a tax relief of 10k, right? Means your taxable income is 90k. So 90k still need to go in times the tax rate. Then you get the amount of tax you have to pay. Then the amount of tax you have to pay, you use the rebate to offset, then that's the tax you need to pay at end, net tax payable. Okay, so that's the difference between reliefs and rebates. Okay, first we'll go on to the reliefs. Okay, so these are all the type of reliefs available. I am really quite amazed by how they put up all the different kind of reliefs. It looks quite extensive. Okay, so earned income relief is the very first one. This one is very easy to understand lah. So basically, anyone who exercise employment or has income from pension or carry on a trade or business, so the self-employed as well, will enjoy earned income relief. So if you are below 55 years old, you will get a relief of $1,000. Whereas if you're 55 to 59, you'll get $6,000. 60 and above is $8,000. So for my dad, he's getting a $8,000 tax relief. Okay, and if you happen to be one of the unfortunate ones who is handicap, you get much more tax relief. So it's 4,000, 10,000 or 12,000. Okay, so how to claim? Basically nothing you need to do lah. You just need to check is in your tax return. When the IRS send you a SMS to go and check your tax return, you just make sure this relief is inside. Okay, so you do not need to claim, it's automatically granted to you based on your eligibility. Okay, so reliefs, right, are only available to tax residents. So if you are a non-tax resident, meaning you are a foreigner who is not been in Singapore for less than 183 days, right, you are a non-tax resident, you will not qualify for all this relief. Okay, yep, so you can see it from here. May claim deductions and donations, but not eligible to claim personal reliefs. Okay, so for non-tax resident, you will be taxed at a higher of flat rate of 15% or progressive resident tax rate. So no matter what, you are taxed higher if you are non-tax resident. So if you have been in Singapore for the entire year, right, don't worry, you are a Singapore tax resident. Okay. Okay, next we move on to the spouse relief or the handicapped spouse relief. Okay, so how do you qualify for this relief is you have supported your spouse and satisfied all these conditions. Spouse was living and supported by you, so it doesn't mean that, okay, you see your spouse must not have an annual income exceeding $4,000. So if your spouse is actually working, you will not qualify for this spouse relief. Okay, annual income includes taxable income, which is any taxable income, and even tax exempt income, if like bank interest, all these, right, also includes. Okay, then foreign source income, regardless of whether it has been remitted to Singapore. So it is quite hard for this for your spouse to have less than $4,000. Even if she do like part-time job or whatever, she most likely earn at least $4,000. So most likely you cannot qualify for this spouse relief. So if you are legally separated, you can claim this relief if you made maintenance payments. Divorce, pay alimony, not eligible to claim. Okay. So if your spouse is handicapped, you claim $5,500. If your spouse is not handicapped, claim $2,000. Okay. Yep. Next, we move on to the next tax relief. Okay, next is the foreign domestic worker levy. Okay, so if you employed a maid and then married, live with your husband, female only can claim, they are not for male. Okay, so single and married men not eligible. Okay, husband, married, and your husband was not a tax resident, or you are separated from your husband but child live with you. So even if you are separated, divorced or widowed, right, you still can claim, but you must have child if in that case. Okay, this foreign domestic worker levy relief can only be used to offset your earned income, so cannot offset property income, so it must be derived from like employment, pension, trade or business. Okay, so the amount of relief is twice the amount of foreign domestic worker levy paid. So it doesn't mean that you actually get back more than what you paid, because this is relief is a deduction on your taxable income. Okay, so you claim twice the foreign domestic worker levy paid on one domestic worker. So if you have more than one domestic worker, you cannot claim this. Next, we'll move on to CPF reliefs for employees. Okay, so normally based on compulsory CPF contributions, right, the maximum relief will be $20,400, which is 20% of 102,000. However, if you actually make VCMA to your account, you can possibly qualify for more tax relief that is more than 20,400. Okay, some notes to take note is contributions not eligible for relief is a voluntary contribution made in excess of the compulsory contribution. So if you actually do voluntary contribution but not to your MA account but to your all three accounts, is not eligible for relief. Okay, then if you contribute excess CPF that is employed by two or more related employers, so the employers are actually related, then you will not be eligible for this relief. However, if you actually have two employers that are not related, you can actually contribute more than 20,400 as well. Okay, so it depends on your income. If your income is very high, you can potentially exceed this 20,400 cap by two different employers that are not related. Okay, this is evidence from later I'll show you a letter that I wrote to CPF. Okay, so CPF contributions made in respect of your overseas employment is not eligible for relief because it counts as voluntary contribution, because by right, by law, you don't need to contribute to CPF if you are employed overseas. Okay, so the amount of relief, let's show you one example of when you will exceed the 20,400. Okay, so this 102,000 is derived from this calculation. Okay, so if say you earn 95k in a year and then your OW cap doesn't exceed the 6k per month, so this whole 95k will be subject to CPF, right? So by employer contributes 17% and then you contribute 20%, so you contributed 19k into your CPF from your salary of 95k. Okay, but when you add up your contribution and your employer's contribution, you actually totally contributed already 35,150. Okay, then the annual contribution for CPF cap, right, is 37740. Then you try to make some voluntary cash contribution to your MediSave account, which is the VCMA. However, even though you make a 3,500, right, contribution, the maximum tax relief allowed on this voluntary contribution is only 2,590, because they are using this 37740 to minus your total compulsory contribution made already. So the net amount is 2,590. Okay, so adding your compulsory CPF contribution and your maximum allowable for VCMA, it is only 21,590. So it exceeds the 20,400 that I talked about just now. Okay, so this is a special situation. If you do VCMA, you can exceed the cap. Okay, then now I'll move on to show you the letters that I received. The clarification that I got from CPF. Okay, so this is a clarification that I got. So I made a question that whether for members below 55 years old, right, if they exceed the contribution, the maximum full retirement sum, right, in their SA, will this SA still continue to receive a 4% interest rate? Because last time, if you contribute to SA, the RSTU, right, you can actually get tax relief. So I wanted to ask about that. So they mentioned that even if you exceed the full retirement sum, you will continue to receive the 4% interest rate. So for those people who tell you that you won't receive 4%, they are misinformed lah. Yeah. So they say we'll continue to earn 4%. Okay. My second inquiry was about whether you can contribute more than the 37740 per year. Okay. So I asked if you have 2 or 3 employers during the year, derive very high income, is it possible to contribute more than 37740 into CPF? Okay, so refer to inquiry. The CPF annual limit of 37740 is only meant for voluntary contribution. So it means if it relates to compulsory contribution by 2 different employers, then it's allowed to be as a tax relief, and also it will not be refunded to the members. Okay. Next up, let's move on to the next relief. So the next relief is CPF relief for self-employed. So just now I was mentioning about how self-employed is supposed to interact with employed. So if say you are employee and you also do like freelance work at the side, right? How does these two interact together to form your CPF relief cap? Okay, so here are some examples. Okay, so CPF contribution by a self-employed person who is also an employee. So if you're an employee as well as an employed person, you make compulsory CPF contribution. You also have to make, as a self-employed, you have to make compulsory MediSave contributions. Okay, and then you try to make some voluntary CPF contributions as well. However, if your 1 and 2, right, already exceeds the cap of 37740, then there will be no tax relief allowed on your voluntary contribution. However, if your both compulsory contribution is less than the CPF relief cap, then your voluntary contribution can be claimed as tax relief. Okay, so I found the example here. So for people who are employee and self-employed, okay, so if you, this guy, example, like you're self-employed and then he earned 40k and then net trade income for and this employee income, this is self-employed income, so total he earned 60k. Okay, employer helped him to contribute 6,800. He himself contribute $8,000 to CPF. All this is compulsory. Okay, then there's a maximum MediSave cap based on his age and net trade income. This one is applicable to the self-employed contribution. Okay, then for compulsory MediSave contribution as self-employed, is either lower of this maximum MediSave cap or 20,000 times 8%. So why is it 8%? It's because when you look at this, how this 37% is allocated to your OA, SA and MA, usually for below 55, it will be 8%. Okay, so 8% of 20k will be his compulsory MediSave contribution, which is 1,600. Okay, and then if you know the annual CPF contribution cap, it is 37740. So he also went on to do some voluntary contribution to his MediSave of $5,000 and voluntary cash contribution to all 3 accounts of 16,340. So all these are under the self-employed scheme. Okay, he did this contribution. So total of voluntary contribution he made is 21,340. So how did he decided to make this contribution? Is because he has the maximum cap is 37740, so he minus 6,008 and 8,000 from the amount, and also the compulsory MediSave contribution he made. So the remaining contribution he made was 21,340. Okay, and then his CPF relief cap as a self-employed individual actually is not 37740. It's not a total of 37740. It's because he does not earn so much income. So it's either lower of 37740 or 37% of 20,000. So because he didn't earn much trade income, right, he can only take relief for 7,400 instead of 21,340. Okay, so the total CPF relief allowable to this Charlie guy, right, is his compulsory CPF contribution as himself as an employee, because we only look at the employee side. The employer side is not taken into account for the individual tax computation of relief, okay, because that one is already it's not even part of the gross salary. So if you count the employer side of contribution as a relief, it's a double relief, okay. Then compulsory MediSave contribution as a self-employed person, just on top, 1,600. Then his voluntary contributions as a self-employed person, so you use the 7,400 minus the 1,600 compulsory amount, it is 5,800. So his voluntary contribution can only get deduction for 5,800. Then he also did VCMA. He also did VCMA. So VCMA is lower of $5,000, or using his the total CPF annual contribution cap of 37740 minus his total contributions for the year lah. So 6,008, 8,000, 1,006 or 5,008. So this amount is actually higher than the 5,000, but he can only get lower of 5,000 or this amount, so he gets the $5,000. So if you add all this up, it will be $20,400. So why $5,000 is because he only made VCMA of $5,000. If he actually made more VCMA, he can actually get up to you see lower of VCMA or the cap, right? So he can actually, if you add all this up, right, it should be 15,540. So he actually can get much more CPF relief if he actually contributed more to his MA. So as a self-employed person and an employee, you can actually get much more tax relief than 20,400. Okay, so imagine if he had actually contributed VCMA of 15,540 and VSEP, right, means the voluntary cash contribution, only 5,008, right? So he reduced and then he put all to MediSave instead. Then he would have total contribution of contribution is 21,340, same as before, okay. Then he would have gotten more relief. So you can see the VCMA he made, right, is 15,540, which is the lower of this amount that he made, and also you use the cap minus 6,008, which is 6,008, which is the employer contribution, and 8,000 his own contribution as an employee, and 1,006 and the 5,008, then it's remaining this amount. So if you add all the contribution, 8,000, 1,006 as himself, like 8,000, 1,006, 5,008, then you plus the 15,540, right? His total CPF relief allowable is 30,940. Okay, this is only all from all the other schemes. And if he wants to do a RSTU, which is not affected by this CPF relief cap, right? So it's a separate cap for that. So it's $8,000 $8,000 is for 2022, but it was $7,000 in 2021. So if he hasn't hit the full retirement sum, right, in the SA, and he also do the contribution of 7,000 last year, so he will be additional 7,000 CPF relief allowable as well. Okay, so this is how you can make full use of your CPF reliefs. Now I will give you an example of a super high income earner. So imagine if you are earning 102,000 from your employer, and then you also make net trade income of about 100k. Okay, then compulsory CPF and employer will reach the max cap. Okay, 17,340 and 20,400. And then if you go and compute the maximum MediSave cap based on your net trade income, it will be 5,760. So the compulsory MediSave contribution as self-employed is 5,760. But all this is all subject to the annual CPF cap. Okay, however, because all these are compulsory, right, and they both exceed the CPF cap, all voluntary contribution will not be allowed for relief. But if you compute the 20,400 and the 5,760, the total CPF relief allowable is 26,160. Okay, so it's actually more than the 20,400. Next, we will move on to the NS men relief. So this is for self, wife, or parent. So all those NS men, you serve NS, you are entitled to this NS men tax relief, and to recognize your contribution from national service. Okay, so it's based on national service done in the previous work year. Okay. Then to claim this relief, you must completed NS under this, deemed to have completed service. Okay, so amount of self-relief, if you didn't perform NS activities during the preceding year, then you will get 1,005. However, if you're a key command or staff appointment holders, you'll get 3.5. So all these are automatically in your tax return. Okay. However, if you perform NS activities, 3,000 and 5,000. So basically, you're going to verify that the amount is correct. Okay. Then for those wife relief, Singapore citizen, husband eligible for NS man self-relief. Widows can also be eligible for relief unless they go and remarry. Okay. So the amount for wife is 750. Okay, how to claim? No need to claim lah, automatically will grant you. Okay, you just need to double check. If you don't have, you go and put it in. So for parents, must be Singapore citizen, and then child eligible for NS man, child born to you or your ex-spouse. Okay, is a stepchild or legally adopted child. So parents of deceased NS men also eligible for this relief. Okay, so amount for parents is 750. So regardless of number of children who are NS men. So if you have 5, it's also 750. Okay, how to claim? Also automatically based on eligibility. Okay. Okay, next relief. All this we went through already. So next one is the parents relief. So for parent relief, if you have the following dependents in the preceding year, which is 2021, you have parents, grandparents, parents-in-law, grandparents-in-law, you can claim a parent relief. However, you must satisfy these conditions. Okay, the dependent for these conditions is depending lah. So yeah, so if the person was living in your household, and if live separate in your household, must incur $2,000 in supporting her. And must be living in Singapore. Okay, living in Singapore permanently, except for like going to travel, short vacation. Okay, foreign dependents regarded as living in Singapore if you stay in Singapore for at least 8 months. Okay, so yeah, so it's required, and dependent must be age 55 and above. Dependent must for the parent relief, don't need this physically and mentally disabled, but if physically and mentally disabled, you can qualify for the higher tax relief, which is the handicapped parent relief. Okay, so for handicapped parent relief, right, don't need to be 55 years and above. Okay, then if annual income exceeding 4K, right, then they cannot claim the relief already. However, for handicapped, can still continue to claim the relief. Okay, so stays with dependent will get more relief, don't stay get lesser relief. Handicap get much more relief also. Okay, so you can claim this relief twice for up to 2 dependents. Okay, so if you are claiming parent relief, no other claimant will be allowed to claim on the following same dependent. Okay, so you deceased already, passed away during the year, you can still continue to claim, but that's the last year you can claim lah. Yeah, so if you want to share the parent relief, can be shared. Okay, so what can you claim? Shared relief, parent, no. Okay, parents stay with any of the claimants, yes, claim 9,000. You can claim more than one individual maintaining the same dependent, makes the congregation may be shared. Okay, so stay with any of the claimants. So as long as stay with any of the claimants can claim the $9,000. So if say your parent is staying at your sister's house but not staying at your house, then you just share with your sister, right? Then you can claim 9,000 instead of 5,500, and then you all both can share the relief lah. That's even better, right? Yeah. Okay, so first time claiming the relief, you need to log in with your SingPass, go and check, edit your tax form, and then put in the relief. Okay. Then if the relief allowed to you last year, the amount will be preferred and granted to you automatically this year. Okay. Paper filing you need to go and fill up this form, but I don't believe anyone is doing paper filing. So for first time handicapped parent relief, you need to go and get a doctor certification. Okay. Yep. Okay, let's move on to the next relief. Okay, this is the same. Oh no, this is different. Okay, then we go to grandparent caregiver relief. This one is for females only. Okay, so single or male taxpayer not eligible. Must be a mother, married, widow, or divorced. Okay, parent, grandparent, parent-in-law. that living in Singapore looking after your kids. So you must have kids age 12 and below, or else you must have unmarried handicapped kids. Okay, so the kids must be a Singaporean citizen. You are not who is this parent, grandparent or whatever, right, cannot be working or carry on trade. Okay, never say how much income they are deriving. As long as they start working or they carry on any trade, then you cannot claim already. Okay, living in Singapore, no one else has claimed grandparent child relief on the same caregiver. Okay, so if 2 or more person has claimed, you will not be able to claim. Okay. Okay, next we move on to qualifying child relief. So for qualifying child relief, must be a child born to you or stepchild or legally adopted, must be below 16 years old or studying full-time at a university. So must not have annual income, because a lot of uni kids will go and work, right? So the annual income cannot exceed $4,000. Includes internship, national service, school attachment, part-time employment. However, does not include scholarship, bursaries, and similar allowances. Okay, so all these 3 must be fulfilled for qualifying child relief. However, for handicapped child relief, right, don't need to fulfill the age. Okay, don't need to fulfill the income. And then as long as your child is mentally or physically handicapped, and is born to you, your stepchild legally adopted, then you can qualify for handicapped child relief. Okay, then the amounts are different. We got some examples here for you lah. Yeah, so the qualifying child relief is 4,000 per child, whereas the handicapped child relief is 7,500 per child. So if you have a lot of child, then you can claim much more reliefs lah. But all the reliefs are capped at 80k per year. So even females got a lot of reliefs, right? They might not be able to fully utilize that relief, so it's capped at 80,000 per YA. YA is a year of assessment. So this one, next we come to the working mother child relief, right, which is the most extensive child relief for females. Okay, so single or male taxpayers not eligible. So encourage married women to stay in the workforce after having children. So working mother, married, divorced, have taxable income. Okay, maintain a child who is a Singaporean citizen. So you must have a child who is Singaporean citizen. Okay, satisfy all conditions under QCR. So as long as you have QCR, the working mother most likely will have working mother child relief. Okay, child born to you. Okay, then the amount of relief for the first child will be 15,000 of the mother's earned income. So earned income does not include property rental income. Okay, so it's employment income. Okay, and also those trade income lah. So 15% of mother's earned income. Second is 20% of mother's earned income. So how to calculate, right? If this one works hand in hand with the QCR. So if there is a QCR, right, then QCR will take up the amount first. Then this 15,000 is the QCR is a subset of this 15%. Okay, then 20% is on the second child, third child, and beyond is 25%. Okay, so if a lot of child, then possibly you hit the 80k cap already lah. Yeah, so claiming other reliefs on the same child, so QCR first. So it's a subset lah, like I mentioned. Total cap of QCR plus working mother child relief is 50k per child, but it doesn't matter as long as you have 2 kids, right? You already hit the 80k already if you already have 50k per child. Okay. Yeah, so like I mentioned, QCR is a subset of WMCR. Okay, so how to claim? If first time claiming, you need to go and declare, log in your SingPass and edit your tax form. However, if already last year already have, then you just follow the steps. Okay, if you make any changes, just make it accordingly. Okay, next one is handicapped brother sister relief. Okay, next handicapped brother sister relief. Okay, so this is if your brother and sister is handicapped, to give recognition to individuals supporting their handicapped siblings. Okay, dependent was living with you in the same household. Must satisfy all these conditions. Okay, living in the same household, and if separate household must have incurred 2,000 or more in supporting her. The sibling must be physically or mentally disabled, so must have a doctor certification. So maximum you can claim is 5,500 for each handicapped sibling or sibling-in-law. Okay. So yeah, 5,005 is the same whether leave with you or not lah. Yeah. So if you're first time claiming, same, go and update your tax form. If not first time claiming, usually it is already pre-filled. Okay, so all these are the resident tax reliefs. I think some of these reliefs are available to non-tax residents, so we can go in and take a look. So this life insurance relief. Okay, wait so basically this thing will help you determine whether you can get any relief. So you say you're a foreigner, then you're male, imagine you're single, employed, no children, apply. So you can see, oh, foreigner, yes, you can get, but you must be tax resident. So only a tax resident who are in Singapore for more than 183 days can claim for tax relief. So yeah lah, so basically non-tax resident don't have any relief. Okay, yup, so we reset. Okay, so next is the life insurance relief. This one mostly applicable to foreigner lah, because Singaporeans already hit the cap. So you can see for life insurance relief, you must satisfy all these conditions. Your total contribution in the year was less than $5,000 for compulsory employee CPF contribution or self-employed Medisave contribution. So basically foreigners won't have CPF, so this is very easy for them to hit. And BCMA to your account. So all this is relating to CPF. So if you contribute to CPF, most likely you cannot qualify for this relief. Okay. So paid insurance relief on your own life. So must have an office or branch in Singapore. So life insurance relief that do not qualify is an accident or health policy that pays money on the death of a person. Eldershield plans, integrated shield plans, and CareShield Life. Okay, so what qualifies? Must be a life plan. Yeah, you must buy a life plan. So basically you must buy a plan with some what's that called? Cash value. Yes. Okay. However, if you actually foreigner but you make some CPF contribution, I don't know how, but if you actually manage to make some CPF contribution that is less than $5,000, or you are just a Singaporean who doesn't earn that much and makes CPF contribution of less than $5,000, you may claim the lower of the difference between $5,000 and your CPF contribution, or up to 7% of the insured value of your own life, or the amount of insurance premium paid. So if your insurance premium paid is more than 7% of the insured value, you have to only claim of 7% of the insured value. Okay. Yeah, so this is one example. Life insurance value 50,000. 50,000 is actually very little for life insurance value. Okay, annual premium paid is 3,008. Wow, that's quite expensive. 3,008. Okay. Compulsory employee CPF contribution 1,006. So the difference is 3,004. Okay, then you see the life insurance value is 3,005, whereas total premiums paid is 3,008. So you can claim relief on 3,005. So relief is deductible from your assessable income, once I mentioned. Yep. So this one you need to go and declare, because the government don't know when you buy life insurance. So it's for foreigners. Please go and declare. Okay. Yeah. So unless you already bought new insurance, then you need to declare. But if it's same old insurance, it's going to be the same lah, unless your contribution to the Medisave has changed, right? But usually it will also be pre-filled, because they will also know how much you contribute to CPF, so it will be pre-filled and granted automatically. So if it's wrong, you just make the changes accordingly lah. Okay, next we move on to cost fees relief. Okay, so you attended a course to get academic, professional, or vocational qualification relevant to your current employment or business trade between okay. So courses that are not eligible for relief is photography, language. A lot of people like to attend all these stuff. Course on internet surfing, social media skill, all these is not allowed. And polytechnic and university graduate courses, if your graduates have never exercised employment in any trade, so must be related to your trade, then you can claim. Okay, trade or employment. So maximum up to 5,500 a year, regardless of number of courses and seminars. Okay, can claim for test fees, exam fees, registration fees, tuition fees. Okay, if it's paid partially by employer, the maximum you can claim is the amount that is not subsidized by employer. Okay, for courses that span a few years, full payment made upfront, you can divide by 3 lor, so it's a 3 years course, you divide by 3. Okay, next we move on to SRS relief. Okay, so SRS relief is basically based on how much you contribute to SRS. Okay, so if you're a high paying person, you can make contribution to SRS maximum of 15,300 depending on, yeah, so if you're a Singaporean, maximum 15,300, whereas if you're a foreigner, it can be more. So foreigner is 35,700. Okay, so if you already hit the personal income tax relief cap of 80,000, then don't bother with SRS anymore. Okay, CPF cash top-up relief. So CPF cash top-up relief is okay, so this one is in addition to just now the voluntary contribution. This one is CPF cash top-up. So this is a maximum of top-up. Yeah, so you can top up 7,000 to your CPF SA account. So this is the maximum relief you can get, 7,000, and if you do 7,000 or more, it's still 7,000 lah. Okay, this is only for people who are below 55 years old. Okay, and then your people who are below 55 years old, right, if you already hit the FRS, right, you cannot get any tax relief. Okay, then if you are already age 55 and above, right, is in relation to your RA lah. So if your RA is already more than your full retirement sum, you also don't get any tax relief. Okay, next we move on to the BCMA and compulsory contribution. So if self-employed and earn more than 6,000, you must make compulsory MediSave contribution. This is the MediSave contribution rate table that I've mentioned about just now. Okay, so if below 35, it's 4%, 4 to 8%, and 8%. Okay, then if, as I mentioned, you can't do VCMA if you already hit the maximum cap of 37740 for the year. Okay, so yeah. And also, if you already hit the prevailing basic healthcare sum, right, then you are not eligible for the tax relief. Okay, so now I'm done with all the reliefs. Let's go to rebates. Okay, so for personal tax rebates. Okay, so there's no personal tax rebates for YA 2022. The last year that we had personal tax rebate was 2019. However, there's another rebate if you have kids, so parenthood tax rebate is... Okay, so this PTR is actually quite a lot lah. So you must be a Singapore tax resident who is married, divorced or widowed. So if you are single, you don't qualify for PTR. Okay, so must have if you got 3 ways lah. Either you have your own child in the year of birth, you can claim this PTR. However, if you have already had a child and then after that, before your child reaches 6 years old, you get married, then you can get claim in the year of marriage. And then if legally adopted, then you can claim the year of adoption. Okay, so this one is much more than the release because it's actually on the tax payable rather than the tax accessible. Okay, then PTR for different treatment scenarios. When given up for adoption, not entitled to PTR. However, given up for adoption, not entitled to PTR once child is given for adoption. If there's any remaining balance, but before that they already used finish all, then never mind, but if unutilized, they're no longer available for claim. Marriage dissolve, continue to utilize. Okay, one spouse passes away, still can use. Okay, determining child order, this one you can read yourself. So the amount of the rebate, right, is $5,000 for first child, 10,000 second, so it's year of birth, 20,000, 20,000 for fourth and fifth and subsequent child, all 20,000. So basically third and after, all 20,000 lah. Okay, so this amount is to be shared between 2 of the spouses. So if usually we'll give to the male lah, because the male don't have much release. Okay, then if there is any unutilized PTR, it's not forfeited, it's always carried forward. Okay, yeah. So how to claim? Same lah, do declaration. Then if not first year claiming, then it's automatically in your tax return. Okay, I've come to the end of this super complicated tax relief, tax return, what is taxable. Oh my god, this super complicated for a layman, but I hope I've managed to simplify things for you guys. Okay, I hope this video has helped you understand more about the Singapore tax and your obligations and what kind of reliefs you're eligible for. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Okay, please help to like and subscribe if this video has helped you. Thank you everyone, bye bye.